Today we're going to be reading Building the Washington Monument. Before he became the first president of the United States, General George Washington led the colonies to victory against England in the Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783. This means that it started in 1775 and it ended in 1783. When the war ended, Congress wanted a statue built in the nation's capital to honor the war hero. However, having only newly won their independence from England, the colonies didn't have an official capital yet. George Washington was elected as the first president in 1789. He chose a location on the Potomac River as the location of the nation's capital, known today as Washington, D.C. When the architect drew up the blueprints for the Capitol, he left a spot for the Washington Monument. Building a new capital city was expensive. To save money, President Washington scrapped the idea of building his memorial. Scrapped the idea of building his memorial. George Washington died in 1799. Renewed interest in building his memorial arose 34 years later. The year 1832 marked the centennial 100-year anniversary of Washington's birth. A group of citizens formed the Washington National Monument Society. They held a design contest and collected donations to fund the memorial's construction. Architect Robert Mills won the contest. His design featured a 600-foot tall, four-sided tower surrounded by a Greek temple-like structure with statues of 30 war heroes and founding fathers inside. The first stone of the tower was laid on July 4th, 1848. 6 years into construction, they ran out of funding. Funding means money. Work on the memorial stopped, leaving an unfinished tower of 152 feet. It stood incomplete throughout the Civil War in 1861 to 1865. Remember, this is when the Civil War would have started, and this is when the Civil War would have ended. After the war, the focus was on rebuilding the country, not on completing a memorial. The 100-year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence in 1876 reawakened interest in completing Washington's memorial. President Ulysses S. Grant authorized, which means approved or gave permission, to the completion of the Washington Monument. The project would be overseen and funded by Congress. Based on feedback from architects and building engineers, the temple-like structure was eliminated, which means gotten rid of, and the height of the tower was lowered to 555. Construction of the Washington Monument was completed on December 6, 1884. An official dedication ceremony was held on February 21st, 1885, the day before Washington's birthday. In 1910, a law passed stating that no building in Washington, D.C. could be taller than the Washington Monument. Remember, we're starting on chronological order and sequence. This is our text structure for today. Directions: read the passage building the Washington Monument and fill in the timeline below. So they filled in the first one for us. In 1789, George Washington was elected the first U.S. president. In 1832, this is the next one. Let's go back into our text and find what happened in 1832. So the next thing that we see, I'm going to go through and see where we find 1832. The year 1832 marked the centennial 100-year anniversary of Washington's birth. Okay, so that means I need to flip this around. and I'm going to write marked the centennial, and if I need to know spelling, notice what I'm doing, guys. I'm flipping it back over and looking. CENTENNIAL. I'm trying to keep it in that box. And I'm going to put 100 years. I'm having to flip it back over. Anniversary of Washington's birth. Now, if you don't think that you can fit the word anniversary in that box like I just did, then just go down below this and write it in your neatest handwriting. Washington should be a capital W because it is the name. I'm putting a period at the end. I put my apostrophe here because it is Washington's birth. He owns that. You need to pause the video, but please make sure that everything is spelled correctly. Please also make sure that you've highlighted where I have highlighted. So if you need to pause the video here to find that sentence, pause the video. The next one says July 4th, 1848. So I'm going to go back into my text. And I find that right there. The first stone of the tower was laid on July 4th, 1888. And we need to remember what the name of this tower is. And this was for the memorial. Okay. So we're going to write the first stone. And if I don't remember, I go back. Of the tower was laid. I'm making sure that I'm writing in my neatest handwriting. If you need to pause the video or rewind the video to go back and have me write this or show you where I found it in the text, you can do so now. Use what I did for the first two as your example for these last two. You need to write what happened, and you also need to go back into the text, find those dates, and highlight that. Please don't highlight anything extra. If you need to pause the video to give yourself more time for that, you may do so. Now, in our notes the other day, or today, we took sequence notes and keywords or phrases from the passage that show text structure in chronological order or sequence. So if I look here are some, but I need to go through and look to see if those are there. So I'm going to leave this here beside it, and I'm going to go and look to see if I can find those things in there. So I'm going to actually put this to the side, but I'm going to use that. It's going to be laying there side by side. So I'm going to help you with a couple of them, and then I need you to go through and find the rest. And I will let you know how many there are total. So sequence word. Here's an example. Before. That's a sequence word. So I highlight it, flip over, and I'm going to write it. Before. Because it tells you when something happens, and that happened before. So then I'm going to go through, and I'm going to follow here. And I'm looking. Now first. First is a word that's on there. Because it tells you when it happened. He was the first president. So I highlight it, and then I write it. And I'm going to give you one more. But I'm going to look through. And there's first again. I don't need to highlight it because I've already highlighted it once. That's okay. going through and I'm looking for this. There's first again, but I don't need to highlight it again or write it again because I already have that. And remember, we're looking for first, second, after that, then finally, lastly, or basically dates. So all of these dates could show sequence. So we could go up here, 1775, 1783, we could write that in here. Okay, I can write that in there. Okay, all these dates you can highlight and put in there. Here's another example. 1789. That's a date that's in here. Okay, so dates show sequence. So those are some that you can go through. So please go through and find all of those that are on there. I found 14 of those sequence words. And I counted this as one and this is one. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I counted 14 of them. So you're going to write all of them right here. Once you highlight them all and find them all. Then here, you're going to restate this question. What was the author's main purpose for writing this text? The author's main purpose for writing this passage was, and then you're going to think about pi. P-I-E. Persuade. Inform and entertain. So you're going to choose between one of those three, and you're going to decide what it was. You not only do you need to put that here, you need to put why you think that. You don't have a lot of room, so I don't need you to write a bunch, but you need to write which one you think it is. So was persuade because, and then tell me, or was inform because, or was entertain because. Give me reasons. See if you can think about pi and the reasons why somebody would want to persuade you to do something. The reason why somebody would want to inform you about something, or why it would be entertainment. It should be spelled correctly because it's spelled correctly here. Any part of the text that you need me to reread, or need me to pause or do anything like that, you have full control over that. I should see every section filled out. I gave you these 2 answers. You just had to find these 2 on your own. I gave you the first 5 of the 14, and I helped you restate and gave you the correct spelling. You're just having to do a few things on your own. Please remember to put your name at the top, and once you are done with this completely, you may put it in the basket at the front of the room. Please do not come to my group and hand this to me. Please put this at the front of the room.